get the ball rolling and to set the context, we have a very special person joining us all the way from Egypt, Jean Dukuna, who is the Senior Global Advisor on International Migration at UN Women. Jean is based in, as I said, the Arab states in Cairo, Egypt. She has a doctorate in sociology and has 35 years of leadership, academic practitioner experience on gender equality, women's rights, and civil society, and at the UN. We will be putting her full profile in the chat box, as we're going to do with all of our experts that we have information for. But with no further ado, may I please invite Jean to take the session ahead. Over to you, Jean.
Karen, thanks so very much, and a very, very good day to each one of you.
Jean, I'm sorry, but we can't see you. Is there a problem with the video? Yes. Thank you so much. Great. Awesome.
Well, I said, thank you very much, Karen. Good day to each one of you. I do wish to say that it is indeed my pleasure and my privilege to make the opening remarks at this roundtable entitled Right Skilling and Digital Transformation. And I do wish to thank the Rise Infinity Foundation and Idobro for the invitation to do so. Now, I propose to make a few context-setting, trend-related, and action-oriented remarks with a particular focus on worker protection. So to begin with, all of us know that there is a whole web of socio-economic political forces driving digital technologies and automation globally. But the rate, the pace, the extent, the level of development is very context dependent. Secondly, there are a whole range of countries, including countries from the global south, that are prioritizing high technology sectors, knowledge economy, services, and are seeing an increasing and fast-paced digitization across a whole range of sectors and occupations, a growing number of digital platforms, increasing online entrepreneurship, increasing automation. And in the context of COVID-19, we've seen online working formats, remote working that has really contributed to the increase in use of digital technologies. The third context setting point I'd like to make is that digital technologies and automation is changing the fabric of work and is impacting workers globally. But this impact is very different for different categories of workers, depending on occupation, sector, skill levels, geographies, whether or not you are a national worker or a migrant worker, male workers, women workers. And for women workers, these differences in outcomes are pretty much mediated by gendered socio-economic labor market differences and inequalities that interact with other forms of inequality, like economic status, race, ethnicity, age, and the like, to wreak disproportionate impacts on women. And therefore, we need tailored responses that address the different and the distinct priorities of these different categories of workers, for example, and including men and women workers, in order to attain inclusion, address diverse needs, so address diversity, as Karen pointed out, sustainable growth and development, human-centered growth and development. So what are those specific trends that we are seeing? Number one, what is broadly emerging globally is that sectors that are rooted in routine, repetitive, heavy, physical, labor-intensive tasks in manufacturing, warehousing, transport, IT, which typically include or recruit a large number of males, have above average automation potential. And you see the same kind of repetitive and routine tasks in sectors also like finance or business services or trade. Now, a small proportion, if you're talking about gender, a small proportion of women in middle-level jobs, administrative jobs, sales jobs in these sectors which have above average automation potential are at risk But if they do have tertiary education and digital skills, then that risk is diminished compared to peers who actually lack these skills. Second, those sectors that are rooted in human interaction, personal care, non-routine creative tasks like care services, the health sector, the education sector, arts, entertainment, for instance, that typically employ a large number of women have below average automation potential and workers are less vulnerable. Thirdly, digital technologies don't just displace. Digitization and digital platforms also create new jobs. Digital platforms, as we know, are market sites for contingent work, long-term work. They're being leveraged for job matching. And I've been working on the issue of migration, and I do know that in the Asia Arab states corridor, governments, private sector employers, recruiting agents are using digital platforms to recruit workers, and governments are using these platforms to monitor contracts and work conditions. Thirdly, we have new jobs, mid-skill jobs or higher level office jobs that are process management jobs to manage automated processes that replace, physical labor-intensive tasks, particularly in sectors like manufacturing, mining, quarrying, etc. And this may open jobs for both categories of workers, including women workers. And lastly, new net jobs outside the technology sector, which require machine and human interaction and straddle more than one domain. So what we're really seeing is the future of work skill mix is more skewed towards emotional and social skills, logic, digital skills, and technology, and less towards, routine, repetitive, physically heavy, labor-intensive jobs. A final point that I want to make here is that online, flexi, remote working creates job opportunities for both men and women workers, but particularly for women workers who are outside the workforce because of sociocultural reasons, because of infrastructural challenges, because they need to combine paid work with domestic responsibilities and childcare. But for both categories of workers, but particularly women, a less than optimal home-based work environment could increase workloads, stress levels, and decrease productivity. Also, many of these occupations and jobs are on demand. They are intermittent and therefore fall within the purview of the informal sector and may compromise a decent work agenda, both for national workers and migrant workers. So finally, what do? We do need rigorous research, data collection, and mapping on occupations and the differentiation in occupations and tasks within a broad occupational category that is disaggregated by sex, by nationality, by wages, by skill levels, by modalities of recruitment. We do need to map the actual vocational and transversal skills and competencies required for differentiated occupations within a broad occupational category. Two, based on this, we need to develop national, regional occupation competency standards that capture these skills and competencies and that link them to commensurate wages and benefits. Thirdly, we need to develop, to assess, to recognize workers' skills. How? Through curriculum development, training, skills upgrading, certification, through our education programs, for instance, STEMS field education, technical and vocational training, and workplace skilling and reskilling. Fourthly, we need to promote worker mobility within and outside the sector through mentoring, through job matching programs. And in the context of migration, for instance, we're talking about skill admission on the basis of certification and recognition of prior learning. And this can be implemented through bilateral agreements, mutual recognition agreements, skills passports, and the like. We also need a change in cultural attitudes towards skilling, towards upgrading low-skilled workers, towards having women workers in non-conventional jobs. Now, there will be some dropout of workers in the context of digital technologies and automation, and governments, employers, and workers' organizations must ensure social protection for unemployed workers and work in a determined way to get them back into the workforce as providing social protection for workers at work. And finally, I'd like to conclude that all of this needs multi-sector and multi-stakeholder collaboration between governments, employers in the private sector, public-private partnerships, and workers' organizations and networks. Thank you so very much.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much, Jean, for setting that context. It was simply amazing. I think everybody's been taking notes. Well, I have been definitely putting down notes in the chat box, and I hope everybody else also will start contributing to the comments over here. So thank you once again. That was really, really setting the context for the entire session just now. I just want to very quickly, before I hand it over to my moderator of the session, Arvind, I want to just explain a little bit more of the housekeeping of how the flow will be like. As you know, right here, we have no panels, no presentations, which means that everyone is a participant in this roundtable, right? And it is a roundtable with no corners and no hierarchy. So we definitely hope that everybody can come in. But the way it is structured, and maybe you've done this in the physical world, where when there are larger numbers of people on a roundtable, you have two circles. Yeah, has anybody done it? Put a show of hands if anybody's done that. It would be really great to see that. Okay, somebody. All right, great. So when we do that, what happens is that there are two circles, the inner circle and then the outer circle. So the inner circle obviously talks a lot more, while the outer circle keeps coming in as and when there is a need to do so. And that's what we'd encourage you to do. The other thing that you need to see, of course, unfortunately, because this is a technology platform that we're using where we cannot change the terminology, you can only be innovative to the extent that the situation allows you to be. So therefore, they've used the word panelists and attendees. But for all purposes, it is the inner circle and the outer circle, right? And the other reason we have an outer circle is because we have over here thought leaders, we've got over here experts, and then we also have learners. And we do want to give learners the opportunity to interact with experts one-on-one as quickly as they can possibly do. And unfortunately, what happens in the chat box, while I just love the virtual space, everybody else tells me that, oh my gosh, it's so difficult. It's so, how do you make it engaging? Well, not me. Okay. I just love it. And I'll tell you why. Where else in the world or which other format allows you to have multiple conversations going on with multiple people and nobody telling you shh or giving you some dirty looks? No way, right? So for me, think about it. What a great opportunity is here. You can have 5 conversations running and nobody's ever going to tell you anything better, right? You can also record your chat, the conversation for your own self right now, right away, without waiting for my report or waiting for our video recording about it. Because does it ever come? Half the time, nobody ever shares that with you. So see, look at the benefits. All you need to do is in the chat, there are those 3 dots next to the everyone. Go there, save the chat, and there you are. You have your notes from the meeting right away. So I think there is a lot of positive ways in the virtual engagement, and we should leverage each and every part of that. So that's how the inner circle and the outer circle work. The other thing about the inner circle, outer circle is that only those in the outer circle can use the Q&A. There you go. See, there are always pros and cons to everything, which means that all those in the inner circle, even if you do have some questions, have to put it in the chat box. Yeah. So there's always pros and cons to everything. And I would request all our experts over here, please do respond to the questions that may come up in the Q&A, because this is the option for us to learn from each other and share our knowledge and experience. And just because one person has answered doesn't mean that the other experts cannot answer, because every question has multiple answers. We all know that, right? Multiple perspectives. So go ahead, please put in your voice over there. The other big thing that is different about the way we do our roundtable is that there are no introductions. Everybody tells me when I first tell them it's 2 hours, they tell me, no way, webinar, people are webinared out, they're not going to stay more than an hour. Okay. Hour and a half is like max. Let me tell you, we have gone overtime on every single roundtable. And it's only because we put a cap at 10 minutes, maximum 15 minutes, that we have stayed within that. Otherwise, we could have easily gone on for another half an hour, 1 hour, if not more, right? So therefore, the time is so precious. And I'm going to quickly stop talking also soon now. But I just want to say that, so that we save on that time, all our introductions will be on the chat. So may I request everybody to very quickly put a one-liner in the chat box about who you are, so we know the whole room, everybody, inner circle, out circle, everybody. So we get a quick picture of who's in the room, number one. And number two is where our experts are concerned, as in when you speak, we will put your profiles again in the chat box so that people get to know you better without, again, taking up too much time on the introductions. I hope you like this format. I know it's a little bit different from what you've ever probably been with, but I think that it's a big win-win for everybody over here, so that we get the maximum out of this whole session that we're going to go about doing. And now the last, and I promise you the last line that I'm going to say is that how we do this, right? Again, we want to make sure we have a great organic conversation, but we also want to make sure it is structured. That's an oxymoron, right? But I think that's another word for innovation, when you try to meet two opposing constraints, right? So we are going to have an organic conversation, but we will be structured around 3 key points. And that is, as Arvind mentioned earlier, is going to be about challenges, capabilities, and then collaboration, right? And so we don't want, by the way, when we talk about collaboration, we don't want to know that it's nice. Of course, we know, and Jean just said it, right? She ended on that note. But how are we going to do that, right? And so we want you all to please put your thinking caps, answer, think, speak, with those 3 points in mind. No watertight compartments. We can be iterative about it, just as long as we're addressing all those 3 things, right? And so with that, I'm going to quickly stop and hand it over to Arvind, who's going to be our moderator for today. Arvind Chinchuri is the founder and CEO at QLeap Academy, and he's also a board member of the Deshpande Startups. He's the author of a book, The New Age Organization. And beyond this, I'm going to put it in the chat box as a promise. And Arvind, over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen. What a passion, what an energy. And when we heard Jean is very, very difficult to articulate the thoughts that you have articulated, because the topic that we are discussing is complex. There are more unknowns than knowns, but you beautifully started with a topic of worker protection, and all the way you went down what it requires for the next steps. I said the topic is complex. The simple reason is that we are in a world where transformations are happening, and these transformations are very, very powerful and rapid. So we are in the 4th industrial revolution. We are talking about smart, intelligent, connected, autonomous networks, systems, and processes. We are talking about machines going to be intelligent, machines going to be sometimes more intelligent than humans. Now, with this changing scenario, the impact is not only on the organizations, the impact is going to be at individual level, at a community level, at a societal level, at a national level, at a global level. And when I heard World Economic Forum, they announced in 2020, they announced a program called Skilling or Reskilling Revolution. I thought, we are in industrial revolution. We are going to talk about industry and technology, but here is a topic which is called skilling revolution. What kind of a numbers we are talking about? The skilling revolution talks about reskilling and upskilling of billion people. Billion, which is a 1/3 of a working population of the world. And as Jean said, there are so many vulnerable sections within that billion people, women, those who are working in the shop floors, those who are working at the cash counter, warehouses, at sales. So they are going to be massively impacted. But one thing is sure is that there will be jobs losses, there will be job displacements, there will be new jobs that will get created in this fourth industrial revolution. So now, as Kieran said, it's extremely important for us to define this problem, understand this challenge. If we understand and define these challenges, perhaps we have a good chance to find solutions and collaborations and partnerships to make the changes happen to deal with this transformation. So I would like to start with two industry veterans before I come to Shad. The first is Dr. Deepak Deshpande, because Deepak Deshpande is the Chief Digital Officer. He's seeing, experiencing the kind of a change that is happening both from an external world and within the organization. So first we will hear from Deepak, and then we will go to Gaurav. He's also Chief Digital Officer. And then we will go to the Shab, and then we will begin, the next set of panels talking about the challenges. Deepak?
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you, RISE team, for having me over here. It's a great platform to share some of the most difficult and things that we at corporates are facing, the world at large is dealing with during these pandemic times. I hope Arvind Deshpande and we share common surnames, so he will be kind to me. Taking the question about the challenges that organizations or generally the world is facing today is primarily multifold, but I will restrict myself to the question and the essence with which the spirit with which it is asked. I am primarily the HR leader. Digital happened to me, what should I say, because the function demanded that. And also, though I have a science background, but I moved into HR, and that's how I think it becomes easy to embrace and appreciate some of the challenges that we have been facing. Let me put it in very simple terms. Number one, the first challenge that we are facing is not every organization is evolved to the same, maturity level in terms of adopting digital techniques and processes, right? And this is like, it's been going for decades and centuries as technology evolves, and it evolves very fast. You will see a lot of organizations who are at the nascent stage. They may be doing financially very well, but it is only situations like pandemics like this, they realize that they're not ready to deal with the situation that's in front of them. That is when they're forced to get into digital. Right. So the first thing I would say is, how are we managing our data? How are the decisions being made? Imagine 46 people in this room sitting here, and each one is talking about the same parameter, but the performance measure is different, and everybody has different way of measuring and dealing with the data. Now, it will take a lot of time for us to come to a consensus. So a lot of time gets wasted here. So it's very important to first fundamentally fix how are we collating the data? How are we analyzing the data? So it's very important to make sure that we have common processes, right? Now, today's time, it's very important for us to move beyond the mix of emails. Look at traditionally, how do we work? Most of the organizations, it's big, medium, and large and super large organizations. Most of them, they work on mix of email, spreadsheets, and ad hoc systems, and they rely on these for making critical, important decisions. Now, it's very important for all of us to get a common master hierarchical master data, and that is where the enterprise data management becomes very, very important. Therefore, so the first challenge, Arvind, what I see is many of the organizations today are relying primarily on manual processes. So it's very important for us to come out of this situation so that we're able to govern our structural changes across, our respective departments. What is the advantage of doing that is we will be able to manage the change. It will become very easy to align the data because the data is coming from different functions, different contexts, different departments and customers, vendors, and various stakeholders, because organization doesn't exist standalone. It is surrounded, if not at least 7 to 8 ecosystems, it survives. And everybody should the same thing in the same perspective, at least the data should come in a standard format. So that's number one. So getting our data is very important. So it's very, very crucial for us to align ourselves to standard, broader way of managing the data, number one. Number two is being relevant to the situation. Today, we are talking about the technology evolves as we evolve with changing times. It becomes imperative for us to also advance on the technology landscape. Today, there's a lot of emphasis. We are hearing artificial intelligence, hearing about machine language, right? Data analytics. Now, these are going to change a lot of things around us, our own lives. We have experienced how the social media is playing and how that data that is available to them is changing the way the CRM works, the messages are taken, and they become so interested. It's very important for us to realize this. Same tools are available to manage the data as well. That's number two. So we need to be relevant to the times. Third most important is once you have a enterprise-wide data management system. Second is you couple with AI and ML and proper analytical tools. It becomes easy for us to streamline the last mile integration with connected business applications, right? Across, public, private, and hybrid cloud environments, which is very common nowadays. And that will help us to also risk mitigate and also enable us to be regulatory compliant. So these are the 3 things I would say first. Third thing.
Thank you, Deepak.
Yes. We will come to the skill part in the second part. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you, Deepak. I think bringing or highlighting the importance of data collection, data management, and importance of technology is extremely important because we are living in a world which is called digital economy. And in this digital economy, the beginning is about data and then platforms, and which drives the economy. So next, I would like to bring in is Gaurav. Gaurav, now you are a chief digital officer, but my interest or the discussion I would like to focus on is what has been the impact, the kind of changes that are happening in the organization when it comes to the people, organization, culture. You need to be competitive at one end, but other side, you need to ensure, you adopt the technology, but you bring the change within the organization. And of course, people are impacted and people will get impacted. So if you can focus on the impact of digital or automation on the people, please, that would be great.
No, absolutely. Thanks, Arvind, and delighted to be here, with this esteemed panel. I'll probably try and give a little different, twist to the whole conversation, right? When my firm belief is, and this is something that I've been studying over so many years, right? Looking at impact of digital across organizations and how digital transformation can really create an impact. I see digital creating an impact in 3 different layers, right? One layer is by applying technology to optimize our processes, drive operational efficiencies within organizations, within governments, within the public sector, etc. Right? So there is one whole layer of applying technology to drive that operational efficiency and process impact. And I think Deepak also alluded to it to say, how do you really digitize your processes, right? The second impact that people are looking at is harnessing the power of digital to create new revenue models. So how can I create new revenue streams And this could be for countries, this could be, all the way down, to the SMB sector, who are also trying to now flip their business models, specifically post-COVID, to ensure that there are regular revenue streams coming in with the application of digital, right? And we can get into more details on, multiple examples on the aerospace and defense sector, on the pharma sector, which I belong to now, life sciences, etc., right? It cuts across sectors. The third bit where digital actually has the potential to create a great amount of impact is the societal impact or the human impact. And unfortunately, that is an aspect which is sort of overlooked because there is so much of focus on cutting costs using digital or generating new revenues through digital. That third piece, which is the societal impact, the human impact, is sort of missed out. And some of those examples we've started seeing, which are coming to light, is especially in the times of COVID, people have started using image analytics. They've started using digital technologies to see if social distancing is being maintained in offices, or is every worker wearing a mask, or is there a hard hat in a manufacturing scenario, then pulling that data out. So there are multiple of those. And then there are multiple other applications in the aerospace side or, other industries to keep the workers safe. How do you sort of ensure that there is a right degree of efficiency, but also at the same time making sure that the environment is safe? For example, in the mining industry, a digital technology being used to make sure that the gas levels or the harmful radiations are limited, and the individual is only exposed for 30 minutes because those are what the norms are. And then there is a beeper which goes out to say, now you need to go out, take some fresh air, and then come back and resume your work, etc. So there are multiple of those examples which are there. But that layer is something which is missed out. Point number one. Point number two, what I've seen, and this is a little, small blog that I'd written down in 2020 when we just got into this decade. My firm belief is that we are getting into a decade of something that I call the renewed society. And one of those aspects of the renewed society is that the skill levels, the skilling of individuals and adoption of not only technology, but otherwise also having the soft skills to become smart at what we are doing is going to be really, really critical. And I'll give you an example. I'm part of a board of an organization called the Global Entrepreneurs Institute out of Australia. And the only single-minded charter that we have is to drive entrepreneurship within the work environment, right? What is entrepreneurship? It's like thinking out of the box, taking proactive, decision-making abilities, harnessing, creating entrepreneurs within the four walls of an organization, or it could be your family-run business. It could be, within your own organization that you are. It could be within the government department. It cuts across sectors, right? But how can you get people to start being more proactive, take proactive decisions, and then move forward? So how do you really inculcate that one trait of entrepreneurship where people start taking ownership and accountability of what they are doing? And then it will also translate into upskilling in themselves. It will translate into finding solutions to problems, so more a solution oriented mindset rather than a problem oriented mindset, right? Rather than pointing problems, how do I really find solutions, right? Sita, I'll come back to you. I know you raised your hand. The third piece that I wanted to sort of talk about is that from a skilling perspective, I think we should probably look at, and I think Jean did a great job in setting the context from a skill perspective and the impact it's having on the labor and how digitization is going to disrupt. But the fact is digitization is for real, right? And if we start breaking down the problem into three macroeconomic sectors, right? You look at the student community, the children and the student community, you look at the working community, and then you look at the retired community, and we will realize that each of these segments require a very different level of intervention from a skilling perspective, right? I'm also part of, I'm sort of based out of Hyderabad. I'm part of the cybersecurity cell there, right? And we see so many incidents of cybercrime from a children perspective. And we also see the retired community, which are low on digital skills, being duped, right? So both of these segments need to be addressed, and anyway, the working community as well. So I'll stop at that.
Thank you, Gaurav, bringing various dimensions on the impact of digital and digital transformation within the organization and its relevance to people and the society. So now Sita has raised the hand. I have three people now who would like to come and focus not on the digital technology and its impact and digital transformation. I think slowly we have to have conversation around the people about skilling and other things. So Sita, after your your intervention, I would like to go to Shabd, because I want to bring now different layers around human and reskilling. And then I would like to bring in Vibhuti, because I want to hear his global perspective, because he works at a national, at a global level. So before I go to Vibhuti, quick, and focus on challenges, not the solutions. We have enough time.
I know.
Enough time on this challenge. Yes. Sita, please go ahead, and then Shabd.
Okay. Thank you so much. I think this is really getting so passionate. Having worked on digital transformation and fintechs a lot, I think the previous speakers have brilliantly set up the context. Before I really, I wanted to highlight a recent conversation that I've had with 2 or 3 NGOs on what sort of digital problems or challenges that they face. And I consciously did it because I wanted to present it to the panel. Before I do that, just one point I would like to exercise is, see, this automation is something completely not new in this 4th industrial revolution. And actually, to say that we are already in the middle of the 5th industrial revolution. If you really look at the first 3 industrial revolutions, it's all about mechanization, mass production. Automation was what the primary goal was. Right now, the transformation is more on to digitalization and hyper-personalization that we are getting to see. And which is what we have been talking about, how the gap between demand and supply of the skills are actually broadening. So that's something, it's a challenge. We've already discussed about it. Let me now focus upon the specific challenge from an NGO perspective. We keep talking about workforce in corporates, other industries. I incidentally had spoken to these 2 or 3 NGOs, and they are definitely not a representation of the entire NGO community. So please do not say that this is going to be, I do not want to put in an impression that this is a problem for across. See, their pain points, what they expressed to me, was they really need to look at the best communication channels to maximize the reach out. We all know many of them are doing through smartphones and social media. So that's the connection that they have with the digital. And they need to enhance the number of donors so that, they need to understand them. We've had some of the panelists talk about data, need to know more about data. So they are really, really craving for, how do I harness this data? How do I know my donor better? How do I segment them better? They are clueless about it. The third thing that what I heard from them is in terms of the payment gateway. All of us at some point or another in time would have gone ahead and contributed to many of these NGOs. That moment of truth when we actually become a donors, and imagine a payment gateway doesn't function. So they're clueless about, how do I really minimize the errors that happens around the payment gateway? Amazing, real problem statements that they have shared. And the last one is, I don't know much about this need for a specific category. SCRA is what I understood from them. They're all struggling to create a simple dashboard. What I'm referring to here is, how many of the donors, which teacher is handling a class to another student in a village? They're not able to track them. And for want of dashboards, even if you have to go to a Google suite of products, their need is to have a minimal requirement is an SCRA. So they are struggling. And I think in terms of a solution, as we continue to discuss, we should look at how do we really enable these NGOs, these SMEs, these MSMEs. And I'm sure we will, over a period of time through this conversation, have something for those sections as well. Over to you, Arvind.
Thank you, Sita. Bringing very important aspect of digital divide, which is extremely, extremely important, that needs to be filled. Though one side we have a very powerful technology solution, but other side there is no access to the people who need it. And you spoke about the communication, access, and so many things which are very, very important in the digital era. So thank you for bringing another dimension to our discussion and enriching our discussion. So I know Rajeshri, she works for NGO. Rajeshri, I would like to hold you for a couple of minutes. So I would like to now go to Shabd before we go into Vibhutiji.
Thank you so much, Arvindji. Very interesting so far. A lot of perspectives have been already shared. Now, there are two things, a lot of people, I think everybody mentioned about data. And there are two adages which are said about data. One comes from the US Senate. It is inscribed on their wall and attributed to a number of other people, which says that in God we trust, for everything else, show me the data. From the Deshpande Foundation, it's often used there. The second is, there is, if you torture the data enough, it will confess to anything, whatever you wish to. So I have seldom believed, data is critical, but not necessary. Sometimes, you go with your intuition as well. We're talking about Industry 4.0. Most thought leaders and speakers ignore one critical aspect of it. We only look at the population base, which is current. Ballpark, we are 6 billion people right now. If you were to look at and we talk about Industry 4.0, we've already passed Industry 4.0. We're in Industry 5.0 now. It's the onset of Industry 5.0. At every industrial revolution, the world population is at least doubled. We are at 6 billion. Nobody's looking at 12 billion people right now. So reskilling and all that, the divide and job losses are bound to happen. We cannot create that many jobs as of now. In fact, another thought leader that I had met way earlier in my life, I talked about a universal income scheme, because the technology exists to take care of the current population. But if the population doubles, we are at a loss. Second point that comes in is, what the Harvard said is VUCA, which now has been, expanded to DVUCA-D. Things that Jean mentioned, things that Sitaji mentioned, Gaurav mentioned. So, we're all currently in the DVUCA-D environment. We're all talking about it. And I come from a training perspective where, we try to do mass training of people because it is cost effective using digital e-learning platform. That's where I made my career in. For 18 years, I've been an entrepreneur providing these training. Within a DVUCA-D environment, and when you bring in technologies, digital technologies like EdTech, there are certain, I think somebody in the chat mentioned about unicorns. Unicorns is a very different concept where you're valuing a company on a certain level. Most companies we value on basics, which is, what is your turnover, what is your profit, what is your total addressable market, what is your gross margins, so on and so forth. Unicorn, the mathematics is very different. It is future income, current investments, and potential. So if you talk about, if I start projecting my own firm with 12 billion people, I can project billions of dollars or rupees, whichever currency you prefer, as a revenue model. The empirical data suggests that most digital businesses, right, which do not depend upon advertising, are not profitable. We are like the airline industry. And during a pre-roundtable conversation that I was having with Vibhutiji, I did mention this, that, EdTech, we were, the most valuable company as on date in this planet is an EdTech company. And I said, it's a bubble. If you were to look at empirical data, no EdTech publisher has ever made money. It's like the airline industry. We have our positives and negatives. There are certain quarters which can be profitable. So most of the time, we end up putting a lot of capex into it. So that's very interesting, and I think that should be because speakers, and when we come to the solutions, these issues and these pointers would be very beneficial. Second is about what is working right now. So any training that is happening, whether it is skilling or reskilling, it is compulsive or compliance based. Anything else that we talk about, which is out of the box, it is not happening in the masses. It is happening, but it is not happening within the masses. For the masses, for the workers, and that is what we talk about. Sir Ken Robinson defined that the current education system followed worldwide is that of the industrial 1.0 revolution. The education system continues to be about industry 1.0. We have moved to industry 5.0.
Sure.
So with that education system, if you're trying to bring about a transformation, it is not going to happen. And even if it happens, there will be gaps and flaws related to it. So the initial context that was set out by Gene will never actually see fulfillment. And then the last is what areas should, so as a youngster, if I have a child, what areas should I probably ask my child to actually get trained into? Because one way looking at, digitization, automation, AI, ML, quantum computing, all of that, basically would eliminate most of us who are sitting in this panel. Our jobs will be gone in the next 15 years, if not earlier. We'll probably be out of job. So what jobs will actually then replace these jobs? And that becomes a fundamental question.
Shabd, I think let me take that cue from you. You alluded to many points. The job losses, job loss is inevitable. So let me change the gear a little bit in our discussion, because there's a lot of discussion about digital transformation and organization and a little bit about people and humans. Vibhuti-ji, you are a thought leader. You look at nations, you look at the world. And when I look at Fourth Industrial Revolution, see, the origin of Fourth Industrial Revolution, or a basis of Industry 4.0, is in countries where there is an aging population, where labor shortages. And look at now countries like India, where we have no choice but to adopt to the Fourth Industrial Revolution, with the fact that we have abundance in labor. So one side, automation is going to be relevant for economically, for a growth of developed countries. And there are other developing countries like India, where we have abundance of labor, but still we need to go for extreme automation. And of course, there is a saying is that, of course, there will be job losses, but there will be new job that will get created. And for a country like India, I would say that there is a risk, but there's a bigger opportunity to contribute to the world, because we have people, we have human, and if they are upskilled or rightly skilled, perhaps things. So I would like to hear your view from a very, very global perspective on this topic, Vibhuti-ji.
Thank you very much. Can you hear me clear? Yeah.
Yes, please.
Good. This is a fascinating conversation going on. So much of wisdom, so much of experience, and so much of global perspective. I thought we were going to talk about India as a skill scenario. But I'm willing to talk, because I have partner working for a company called Human Potential Project, and we talk about human potential. We recognize a couple of things as a historical truth. The historical truth is that you cannot arrest the growth of time, and you cannot arrest the growth of technology. Whether we like it or not, tomorrow all will be one day older, whether we like it or not. Likewise, technology keeps changing every time. And in our experience of work, that we have found is, and we say that in times of change, the learned keep learning, while the one who adopts moves further away. That's the important part about learning. And we have worked with global companies throughout, and all around the world, large and small, NGOs and whatever. And our objective is only one. How does a Shabd or a Arvind or a Gaurav or a Karen do better than what they are doing today? And that brings us to quite a revolutionary kind of a thought process. I will take you to 2007. I had the privilege of being a keynote speaker at Human Resource Planning Society's global conference. About 600 people were there. And there was an India breakout session, which I was heading. And there was a really curious question and anxiety and nervousness, excitement and opportunity when people asked me, what does opportunity mean in the Indian context? That people are talking about India is knocking up 9 or 8% growth rate at that time. And how will India sustain this growth rate if it doesn't have sufficiently skilled people? And the question was very correct. When will we have so many people taking part in the digital era, which is now common? So I told them that if you just look at India as an opportunity of a developing country, I gave them 2 sector example. One was the airline industry. I said, at that time, US had a population of 350 million people, and there were approximately 6,580 aircrafts that were serving the flying needs of Americans. I said, India has 1.2 billion people, and we have barely 500 aircraft serving the flying needs of people. So if India began to focus on just airline development, connecting cities, look at the wide range of activities, which in economics we call backward and forward linkages, that would happen. Look at the technology that will need to be happening. And think about it from that perspective. Today, I mean, at that time, and it is still today, for example, from Bangalore to Delhi takes about 2 hours, 50 minutes. Bombay to Delhi takes about 1 hour, 50 minutes. Calcutta to Bombay takes about 2 hours, 50 minutes or 3 hours. But many smaller cities, Bangalore to Chennai, it takes 6 hours by car and 40 minutes by flight. I said, if the connectivity in India increased, it will transform the country like never before, because it will not only lead to construction of airports, but all the related services that go with it, from cab services, restaurant, providing food, and electrical components, and what have you. And the second example I gave was of the hospitality industry. The hospitality industry in India, we said we have a very poor domestic tourism. People prefer to go to Thailand than to go to Kanyakumari for a travel, because it is easier, cheaper to go. But if India developed just the tourism industry, it will lead to a cataclysmic change in the way we live. And I gave the example that India, with 1.2 billion people at that time, had about 100,000 rooms from 1-star to 5-star. I said, Vegas alone has 100,000 rooms. So ladies and gentlemen, what do you think about the opportunity in India? And think about all the development that can happen, which includes digital, which includes electronic. I remember when I was working with Reserve Bank of India at Bangalore, we inspected Lufthansa Airlines, and they had complete automation that you could book the flight, any destination, you could see the bookings right here. Whereas Air India used to write 5 pages of documents, and then you would know the reservation 3 days later. Friends, here, I wanted to say that technology has, the tectonic shift in technology has brought about a global change. When I came to the US in '91, my job was to market India here, fresh off the boat. At that time, we used to pay $3.50 for a call. Look what is happening today. It's free. We are doing in time digital live session at 1 a.m. now 2 a.m. in New York to wherever you are. Just figure it out. Live conversation is going on with so many people listening to us. The point that I'm trying to make to you is that skill development is key for global challenge. As Jean mentioned, migration happens for 2 reasons. People run away from political oppression, or people seek better economic opportunity. These are the two drivers of migration and immigration. Third one is, which most of the Indians do, is to study abroad. Because it's difficult to get admission in Indian schools than it is to get admission in overseas somewhere, right? 50,000 young men and women came to US visa. They came this year. The guy who got 90% marks, he could not get into space study in India. His seat went to somebody who got 48%. But he is here. And he will be working in America. Who lost the talent? There are a lot of issues here. Skilling is key. I'm saying something very simple. And we have worked with global companies, spread from Tokyo to Colombia, Bogota, worked with Islamic countries. And we have seen the cultural shift is key to any change. As humans, we are just the same. We are born equal, but we become different as we grow forward, as we grow up. None of us look alike. The concept of equality and equity is a very dangerous concept, because if you do not accept individual differences, then the concept of equality has no meaning. We are all different, with different capabilities, different skills. And as a result of which, if we don't develop those skills, then things don't happen. And I use sports as an example. Kobe Bryant, Michael Jordan, greatest of basketball players. Just imagine if they were playing football. You would never have known those names. It's very important for all of us to figure out one thing very important. As we go into job market, what are we looking for? A few days ago, I did a program on the unicorns in India. It was fascinating to know that, in 2013, India had no unicorns. Today, India has more than 80. My next question as Human Potential Project person was, will these 80 or 90 Indian unicorns sustain themselves to become a $100 billion company? How will that happen? Or will the resources be wasted? So the point which I'm trying to drive at today is that I want us to think a little differently. I love Einstein's quotation. I made it as part of my life. Any intelligent fool can complicate a simple problem. It takes courage to move in the other direction. I suppose all of you know that.
Absolutely.
Correct?
Yes.
And that's the reason why simple things are so hard to do. I will share that with you.
Yeah. Thanks.
Simple things are so hard to do because we keep thinking about the big things. And my grandfather's teaching to me, great people did not become great because they did great things. They did those small things right. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to address this issue from a perspective that technology will come. It always keeps happening. Let's not worry about it. Today's digital, how many Apple versions or Samsung versions have we seen? But did it make any material difference to it or not? So our success or failure is based on how we adapt. And I'll share my personal experience, what I did. I belong to a prehistoric era. I told you already, I came to the US in 1991, right?
Vibhuti, if I'm going to jump in, because we do want to hear from you at the closing.
Yes.
I hope you remember that.
Yes.
I know it's 2 a.m. in the morning for you.
Now, you have to suffer me, my dear. You have to suffer me now. You brought me up. I'm up now.
Yes.
No, I will I'll just keep quiet. The challenges that the skill industry faces, there are a lot of inefficiencies in the sector.
Yes.
We are living in a digital era. We are no longer in the machine industry.
Absolutely.
We are not manufacturing anymore. We are in the coordination and cooperation era.
True.
And as a result of which, efficiency and effectiveness both need to move together. It's not one or the other. They both need to happen. We are all coordination workers. We are not factory workers anymore. We are all coordination workers. We are coordinating our activities around the world. Whether you are working in Manchester or Nottingham, or have an office in DC, or anywhere. You can be working, sitting in Kadapa and working for a company in California, and vice versa.
Right. Absolutely.
With these, I want to say that we have to remember one thing very, very clearly. Culture is critical. Technology is neutral. We have to adapt. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Vibhuti. You brought so many dimensions, so many layers, starting with the potential of India, areas of potential growth, and all the way to technology and society, migration, equity. My God, it's incredible. And this is happening at 2 a.m. in the morning.
Absolutely, it's incredible. I'm going to come in very quickly because my task is to make sure that we keep the conversation flowing and in time. I am 200% sure we're going to go over time, and of course, with the permission and approval of everybody, let's start planning that maybe we're going to be about 15 minutes or so over time. And if everybody's fine with that, please yes to the chat box so we know we have your permission, right?
So let's shoot for closing in time. That's important.
And
we've got so many people right now waiting to hear from us, and we just have about 45 minutes from the normal time. So I think we will really be struggling, right? Really struggling.
Yes.
My request of everyone who's going to speak next is going to be that please let's keep it as brief as possible. We've got so many people here in this roundtable, and I think Arvind, Rajeshri has been very, very patient.
Yes.
You could take her first.
Yes.
After which I do want to get Hadia from Malaysia in, so other side of the globe come in, and then perhaps you can decide who comes next. But maybe two of them could come right up. And my request, I'm sorry, I know we have a lot to hear from everybody, but use the chat box and we can go forward further.
Yes.
Rajesh,
Karen, so important what you said, Karen. So let's quickly go to Rajeshri.
Yeah, please.
And then we'll come to.
And then Hadia.
Yes. Yeah. Rajeshri.
She was just not there.
Yeah, I think she got reconnected. Looks like.
She dropped off.
Oh, okay. Hadia, do you want to go ahead, and then we'll bring Rajeshri as soon as she comes back on. We don't want to waste any time at all. Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yes.
Thank you. My pleasure to be here. Thank you so much. I'm echoing Mr. Vibhuti that so much experience, so much global connection, so much knowledge in this one roundtable. I'm very, very honored to be here. So my name is Hadija. I'm from Asia School of Business. In Malaysia right now, it's about 3 o'clock. So I'm a faculty, a senior lecturer from the school, and it's a business school. So the whole idea, concept, and action of right skilling or reskilling, upskilling is very, very near to what we do in Asia School of Business, because everything that we do is in action. So I've met a couple of you, and in fact, the attendees who have heard from me about a couple of days ago about the whole concept of active experiential learning or practicum learning that we do in Asia School of Business. So if I could give 2 examples, very niche examples of projects that we've done in the past, that could be probably an angle or a small model for people to contemplate on or probably replicate, or something that we can work on together in the future. So the first example is in an oil palm plantation in the south of Malaysia. So Malaysia is made up of 2 parts. So the peninsula, which is a projection of the huge mainland, and the other one is in Borneo. So the south part of Malaysia is called Johor. And of course, oil palm plantation is huge in Malaysia and Indonesia, right? But the smallest value chain in that whole supply chain of oil palm plantation are small owners, independent small owners or smallholders. So they're the most vulnerable part. They're not part of these big giant companies such as Sime Darby, which is more global. If you have heard of FGV and IOI, these are giant companies. But we're talking about small independent holders of plantation. They had only 1 or 2 hectares of oil palm, but they have to sell to the same value chain, to the same supply chain. So we came in and we thought that We wanted to try to solve their problems, increase slightly their status in the value chain, but more importantly, put them in the chain of sustainable oil palm products, because that seems to be the product that would be accepted in the global businesses. Like European countries would no longer buy anything that is not RSPO certified, the whole sustainable situation. So when we came in, we realized that what they were lacking were exactly two things that we're talking about: the right skills, new skills, and digital transformation. So there's no data management. And we're also talking, like Mr. Gaurav was mentioning just now, about the age factor. So these independent smallholders, they are of more senior age. So they don't care so much about, adopting data management, digital transformation, and things like that, which makes them even lower or more left behind in the whole value chain. So a team of faculty, interdisciplinary team of faculty, myself, I'm a historian, a supply chain expert, operations management expert, sustainability expert, together with our MBA students, and in collaboration with community representatives, government agencies, NGOs, we came into their community, we spoke to them, and we tried to come up with some sort of intervention. Financial management training, data management training, the simplest form of digital transformation, such as like QR code, just to see like where they are, how much are they selling, like one ton of the palm fruits, because they're not aware, so they get like a lower price point in comparison to bigger palm plantation holders. So in another example that I was mentioning about, I think this is something that people in India also could be more familiar with, the fisherman community. So you have the fisherman, and then you have the middle person, and then you have, the whole marketplace, right? And then the middle person would be getting really low prices from the fishermen, and then they would be able to sell to the more global or local market in a higher price. So the victims will always be the fishermen. And in order for them to even buy the boats, buy their nets, or whatever of the items that they need, they have to borrow from the middle person back. So it's a cycle, decades and decades of cycle that could not be broken. And again, we found out that it's all about not having enough skills, language, financial, knowing the whole position of them in the value chain, and of course, data management and digital transformation. So something as simple as a platform or an app on their phone, they're not interested in. So again, we came here with some tools and intervention, but the key part that I must mention is, I think many of the experts were mentioning just now, is that especially Dr. Jean was mentioning, it has to be a lot of collaboration and partnership. So there has to be some sort of academic intervention to show that there are economic theories, there are things that you can use from the literature, as well as industrial experts, worker and community representative. We need to speak to them. It cannot be from a blind spot, something that is just idealistic rather than realistic. And of course, help from the government and NGOs and a lot of other players, as well as the media. So we have experimented, regardless how small our model is, we've seen that this collaboration, these partnerships really help in order to help people to master more skills, to be more open and embracing of all of these skills. But yes, also I wanted to echo Mr. Vibhuti that skill development is definitely key, and cultural shift is actually extremely, very, very important.
Thank you so much, Adya. I'm going to ask you to please continue some of those thoughts on the chat box, because we do need to move back. And we have Rajeshri back again. So, and now, this is what we always see in the roundtables, that it starts getting heated up after the first hour, and then you're trying to push everybody into it. So my apologies, of course, but use the chat box effectively, and yeah, let's keep the conversation going. Rajeshri, glad to have you back.
Thanks so much, Karen. Anwin. Sorry, I had internet issues. But then I think that this has been a very enriching conversation, and I definitely agree with a lot of things that Gaurav Deshpande sir, as well as just now Vibhuti sir said, and even Hadija. But I think I would add just 2-3 more elements to it. One was from the fact of what Sita said just some time back, that how can technologies be adopted by NGOs better? I think that's where the human capability and the social and cultural embeddedness that even Vibhuti sir touched on, which we also work through our technology platforms, is really critical. We need to really look at technology a little more in the lens of how communities can use it. The analytics becomes a part of their ethos to really start driving its adoption, because that's where I think that layers like benchmarking will come in, when we are not trying to collect data, but making data platforms useful, like something which Jean also said just now in the chat, which is more inclusive, which is driven by the community, so that they are at the analytical layer, they are at the solutioning layer. I think that becomes very important when we are looking at digital transformation. And I think that's where collaboration also is possible. And I would definitely say that there are two trends that we are definitely seeing in our work all across India. The first trend largely is when we also did a large study on the future of work in Bombay, like what Jean said when she did. We're seeing the same trends. Aspirational wise, communities, about 89% of them, young youth now want to look at technology layer jobs. They are with lower 10th or 12th pass, but at the some sense they are really looking at seeing how can they code. Platforms like Udemy and other platforms have opened up technology creation in so many different ways. I think that there is a need to take in fact this aspiration and start channelizing it, because when communities start driving technology products that make sense to them, then they are going to drive technology faster. And at that sense, we are not driving technology, we are actually creating a larger adoption pool. And the second thing that I would definitely say is what you also saw in the Shark Tank. Vibhuji's talked about unicorns, Vibhuji sir, and then that's the same thing you're seeing in Shark Tank. 57% of those who have participated in Shark Tank happen to be family businesses. And family businesses is not very new to India. We've had some of the biggest industrial houses come from family businesses. And that element of social, cultural, and marketed embeddedness is something which is very much there in our genes. So I think that that is something we really need to focus on, because that's what we're seeing in COVID also, right? Like most of people are saying, how do you build businesses with a purpose? The great resignation is happening also here in India. People are searching purposes. They are looking at seeing that how can they drive things that make sense to them and their own families. So I think there also exists an opportunity for us to really look at the youth demographically differently, see whether we can look at concepts around social, cultural, and family embeddedness differently, and drive that through business in various technological layers. Because I think if we can create that environment collaboration, then we'll be able to scale up much more faster in some sense.
Absolutely. Thanks so much, Rajeshri. And Arvind, I'm going to hand it back to you to really take this forward. But I just want to make one last reminder to everybody. We are on our last leg of the conversation. We will try and push it a little bit more, but I know you need to leave, but we need some little time over here. Start thinking collaboration, start putting the opportunities for collaboration. Not that we need collaboration, I think we all know that, but that what is the actual collaboration you want? What is your ask, right? What is your give, right? What would you like? How would you like to get something out of this? How would you like to give something to others? So start putting that on the chat box. I think it'll be an amazing way for us to kind of close with some concrete opportunities for us to partner and take forward. Arvind, over to you.
Thanks, Karan. See, the topic is very broad. One side we have digital transformation, other side we are talking about skilling. So both itself, it's such a large topic. So therefore, we'll have very different views and perspectives as a part of this discussion, and so much to talk about. So now we have two speakers who have not spoken yet, two experts. First is Kumar. He has been holding for long. Kumar, please go ahead. And then I would like to bring in Prabir. Prabir, I know you have been listening patiently. Please, I think it is your turn after Kumar. Yes.
Thank you, Arvind. Thanks. This has been a very fascinating conversation for me. And I particularly agree with what Vibhuti said. We've forgotten how to do the little things right. I would like to take a step back now. I am not an educationist. I don't work in the education area. I work in the area of creating value, which is a holistic approach to sustainability. And today, we are teetering on the brink of disaster. So what we need to look for is what are the right skills that we need to have? There is an iceberg the size of Greenland, which is going to break off from the Antarctic shelf. When it melts, the oceans are going to rise by 0.5 meter. The geographies as we know it now are going to disappear. Are we skilling for that eventuality? Because it is going to happen. The crack has reached a stage where it is not going to heal. Are we planning for that scenario? Are we even projecting such a scenario? What are the skills that we will need? Are we even talking about that? I mean, right skilling, digitalization, everything is fine. It's fantastic. But do we really know what, I mean, are we projecting the skills that we will need going forward? Unfortunately, and this is what I learned from all my conversations, everyone is pretending to be an ostrich. All will be well. We are looking at 2040, we are looking at 2050, not knowing if we will see 2025. Are we skilling for 2025? Are we skilling for the disaster which we are all looking at? Vibhuti can bear this out with me. The climate in the US is extremely unpredictable. They have a huge snowstorm which is going across, the likes of which they have never seen before, which is cutting across the US right now. I mean, there is, and all this has happened because at some point in time, we forgot to do the little things right. And that has now escalated to this point. So all is not lost. We can delay the inevitable. But the first things that we need to do is right skilling. Project the skill sets that is needed for the future. Digitization can happen provided we at least know what we need. Today, unfortunately, we don't know that. Collaborations will happen. I mean, we have all the backend data to build a very, very robust system, provided we know what to build. And today the situation is we do not know what we have to build. That is all I have to say. I mean, please, I exhort each and every one of you, look at this from that perspective. Look at it from a global perspective because climate is global. It is not local. What happens in Antarctica will affect India. If the sea levels rise by 0.5 meter, Mumbai will not exist anymore. The entire South India may not exist anymore. Large parts of the beaches would go underwater. I mean, are we skilling, are we projecting the skill sets needed to survive in such a scenario? I mean, hope for the best, but plan for the worst. Skilling should be based on that. Developing right skills should be based on that, rather than hoping that all will be well. So this is my only submission here. Thank you very much for this opportunity. I mean, I may have rocked a few boats, but I have no regrets on that because I speak from my heart and I speak passionately about the area that I work in. Thank you very much.
Kumar, absolutely, you have not rocked the boat. You brought the very important point about the right skilling. That's something we need to discuss because we have only 30 minutes left. And once in the you spoke about it, skilling in the context of climate change and sustainability. I have a framework for 21st century skilling, and the first, which is most important, is human skills. But I will not get into that. I think let's hear out Prabir. He has not spoken for almost 1.5 hours. Prabir, over to you, please.
Thank you, Karen, and thank you, Arvind, for your time. I actually didn't want to speak because I was listening to all of you. That was my purpose to come on today's call. And if you saw me as being slightly restless, is because so many ideas came and I was thinking of so many things that whatever one had prepared to share, that whole thing is now dissolved and some new thoughts have come. And I was also thinking how to make the shortest intervention possible so that we can move on and others can speak. So just to pick up a cue from Kumar, he said that we seem to be like ostriches. As an entrepreneur, obviously, when I hear this word, I get excited because we are always looking to be an outlier or someone different or do a shape shift to what is mainstream. So he's probably right that we are looking at digital and skilling, and I think there's overemphasis on digital as the way out for skilling. So that's my first point of reference. Skilling is not just about digital. Now, why do I say that? It's because if you look at the numbers that I think it's about 60 million people in the group of 17 to 25 will be needing to look for jobs from now to 2080 to be gainfully employed. That's about that's about quite a large number. And out of the people who are already employed, 37, 40% will need to reskill and upgrade the skills to remain relevant. But there are not so many jobs around. So a large part of the 13, 17 and 17, 24, 17, 19, that cohort is going to be looking for jobs that don't exist. So what have we done about it? If you look at the gross enrollment ratio in schools, India has a dropout rate very, very high. So we have 25% dropout. At secondary level, it's very high. Primary is a good amount of attendance, but as you hit secondary, then there's a huge dropout, more females than males. So that is one. Most of the people look for government jobs or try to get a degree by which they remain unemployed. For example, 2 of 10 engineers are only employable. We produce 1.5 million engineers a year, but not all of them are employable. So that's another big divide. So while everybody is moving to technology, trying to get into computer science, trying to get into technology services, technology can't absorb all these people coming out of the factories of higher education, of the STEM, especially of engineering. So what do? Does everybody have to go to college or to engineering and get humanities degree? Maybe not. There's a huge gap which skilling is not addressed is the apprenticeship programs. There is a shortage of qualified plumbers, carpenters, mechanics, because everybody feels that you need a degree. Now, if there was a good apprentice program, then people dropping out of secondary would have an opportunity to join apprentice programs, apprentice industrial training institutes, and get skilled up at the basics. But everybody wants to be a manager or an administrator or a boss or in IT or a businessman, and very few people want to do these things for which there is huge demand. And therefore, the quality of those services today suffer. But there are 40, 50 million people who can be easily absorbed into these, I would say, as apprentice programs or industrial training based courses, more practical. So that is one intervention. Secondly, is the point about at one hand, though I'm saying digital may not be the only way out, with Web3 and beginning of the creators economy, maybe not everybody will need to look for a job in some organization. Maybe each one is a creative person, has some skill sets, and can monetize the skill sets through blockchain, NFT, earn as you play, earn as you learn, earn as you do models. So probably that gig economy may help in absorbing some of the talent which is stuck between secondary and higher education and post your bachelor's degree or even your master's degree. So that's the second point. The third point is, and I've come to an end, is what we have done in IF for many years is we've been in the mental health and well-being program, but over the last 2 years in COVID, we made a bit of a pivot to COVID data management and COVID medtech and COVID medical emergency facilitation services. So I think about it to some extent, how we quickly had to change focus just from health and well-being and for young adults, because we didn't have physical proximity to our potential clients and customers, and move to data management. So today we run one of the 4 COVID dashboards in the country. We run one of the only COVID early warning dashboards probably in the country, which it's you can get that on site. It's in my details. And we also got into medical technology, where we offer ECMO services for critically ill patients who need lung transplant, etc. So obviously the medical facilitation, emergency facilitation, many of us did it during COVID, but we were able to generate a lot of volunteers to help us to do that. So how do we move forward? Yes, we recognize the problem of young India, young adults having no career, limited career choices. We look after their mental well-being and health. That was our first focus, and we have products and programs and schemes around that. And second is because of COVID, a mild pivot and went down to health, physical health, and provide data management and data analytics. You can go and see COVID dashboards, state-wise, district-wise. Bombay, you can make out ward-wise. We predict which ward has going to have an outbreak, and probably are able to give about 10 to 15 days notice to the ward officers there, that based on certain 10 to 12 metrics that we track, we can predict certain outbreaks. So these are some small things we have done in collaboration. We'll be happy to, obviously mental health, well-being slightly taken a backseat, though it's really front and center in terms of need of the hour. But if there's some people who need that program at a school level, college level, university level, community level, organization level, we'll be happy to do that. Second is if somebody can help us to underwrite our full pro bono volunteer services in keeping these dashboards running. I have an international team of 30, 40 people across the world who make or running these dashboards. So probably at some point of time, I may need to in-house some of the resources in coding, programming, inputting data, analyzing. So if someone would like to take that and underwrite those things, we'll be happy to get the support from any well-meaning organization or person. So with these few comments, I just want to leave it at there and pass it back to Arvind. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Prabir. You brought very important dimensions about occasional skilling, changes in the education that is required. And then you spoke about gig economy and shared one of the solutions that can be used in the mental health and many other applications. You know, I'm missing being a moderator. I cannot speak much. That's something, otherwise I would have been an expert. I would have spoken and shared my perspectives. But if I look at the time, we have only 23 minutes left. Deepak has been waiting for almost 45 minutes now. Sita is yet to speak completely. He just had an intervention. Bala, Vijaya, I think you...
Arvind, again, I'm going to keep coming. Because again, this is something that we do at the Rizal Summit. You know, we do want to get as many people in as possible. So correct. I would request, and I hope that I have the understanding of all the experts, that if anyone who has not yet spoken from, especially the experts, we would like to bring them in and
agree. Absolutely.
Hands up.
Yes, because,
correct. Absolutely.
Totally.
Yeah.
So I think Vijay has also had a hand up, and
yes,
so we could do that.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah. See, now, Karen, look at the challenge. Time versus 3 speakers, and they're waiting for almost 45 minutes to speak.
Yeah.
It's a tough. So I'm controlling my thoughts. You know, I have a lot of ideas and thoughts. I'm not able to speak at all, other than, you know, a couple of sentences of summary. Over to Deepak. I think let's connect Deepak and then Vijaya.
Yeah, Vijaya.
Okay.
Vijaya will be. I think we'll take that advice and we'll have to.
And also, as I requested, you know, as crisp as possible, please. My apologies. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Yes.
Thank you, Sharon, for inviting me to be in part of this very, very vibrant, pertinent discussion, and to the moderator and the co-panelists, experts. I'm just going to talk about 2 things here because, as already mentioned, the topic is so wide and vast. We'd love to speak about everything, but 2 things that I'd like to speak about. One is, I think, which Rajeshri already alluded to, where she spoke about, and I think Sita also touched upon it. You know, we largely work with nonprofit organizations, and yes, we want to drive digital adoption. I believe COVID exacerbated the need to kind of adopting Zoom and Google and so on. But I think there's a lot of market technologies which are available. You know, the philanthropy sector is largely pushing open source technologies so that you're able to make affordable technologies more accessible to nonprofit organizations. We know that one of the biggest challenges in the charity world is the availability of resources, financial resources that allow organizations to invest in them, because adoption comes at a cost, right? And I think what we've been doing which has been in the area of capacity building, has now come back to to the forefront of things. You find a larger number of philanthropy making bodies in the country. The forefront of it are the Ilya Foundation, there's Nilekani Philanthropies, there's the A.D. Chandra Foundation, who are all committing funding which is going in to support organizations in investing that allows them to build efficiencies. And technology has a huge role to play, because technology is not just about Zoom and Google Meets. It's also about delivering programs digitally. Prabir spoke about dashboards. And it's just not in the investment of technology alone. It's also in the skilling of people, right? On one hand, you've had people who bring in a lot of passion, commitment, and loyalty to staying in organizations. And as they're navigating a changed, altered environment, which is required of them to equip themselves with the basics of using technologies. Today, you're required to capture program data on a tablet, whatever may be the platform. So I think the conversation around adoption, digitization can only be complete when we have the capital to enable it. And so to philanthropy providers, and that conversation has to be larger. You need tech philanthropists, the Silicon Valley tech billionaires who are doing Indiasporas, leading that very, very largely. The Indian diaspora around the world is committing funding to support nonprofit organizations across the world, whether it's India or other grassroots in other countries. That's one part of it. And very quickly on the second part, which was the readiness to kind of be ready for the fifth revolution, when we speak about employability, and mentoring comes back into place. Now we work with a lot of organizations who are driven by the highest of good intent to kind of have mentoring programs with employees, business leaders. But I think to collaborate, to bring in a very relevant mentoring curriculum, which allows the underserved youth of today to be prepared, to be better prepared, to make that walk into employment, I think is what would be the need of the hour. I'm very cognizant of the time, and that there are a lot of more people who would have short thoughts to share. This is just what I had to say, and thank you so much again. Lovely being here.
Thank you, Vijaya. So articulate. You spoke about technology and its value to the NGOs, and then preparing youth for the future and change that we need to bring in the education system. So I'm trying to articulate as with minimum words as possible, just to transition. So we have 17 minutes to go. Countdown has begun, and Deepak and Sita, I think around after that, please give me 3 minutes to 5 minutes before Vibhusiti comes.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yes.
Please go ahead.
Hello.
Yes, go ahead.
Deepak, we can hear you. Yes, please.
Great. So I will not take long. I just, because we're at the right spot, I just want to share with you what are the top 15 in-demand jobs, right? And you'll be surprised to see this. Frontline e-commerce. I mean, this is salary ranges ranging from it is going on the higher side, right? Ascending order. Loan and mortgage experts, healthcare supporting staff, business development and sales professionals, experts in workplace diversity, digital marketing professionals, nurses, educational professionals, digital content creators, professional and personal coaches, specialized engineers, mental health specialists, user experience professionals, data science specialists, artificial intelligence practitioners. These are top 15. Skills to learn. I mean, this is the 30 list. I will just go through some of them. Learn to code or IT, SEO, Google Analytics, better cover letter, resume, better job, Microsoft Excel, learn Chinese, podcasting, YouTube, photography, technical writing, Photoshop, pet care, culinary skills, maths, Microsoft Access, human resources, max skills. I mean, there are so many, including public speaking, personal finance, Word, project management, credit score repair, accounting, WordPress, investing, digital marketing, ethical hacking, copywriting, finance, and keyboarding, right? the most in-demand tech jobs, cybersecurity, number one, cloud computing, DevOps, artificial intelligence and machine learning, augmented reality, AR and virtual reality and development, right? Blockchain, data analytics, environmental planning, NLP, product management. Ocean of opportunities, there's so many of them. Digital literacy, written communication, public speaking, self-management, web development, how to make a website, how to cook, how to exercise and be fit, design. I mean, that N number, I think I will just put in the chat because there are many want to share, there are 30 of them, right? Career guides and help tools, because somebody asked. I think there are so many resources available. Some of them, especially for youngsters and college students, if they are here and somebody wants to get into switch the careers, there's so many tools available. Going global, okay, they provide job leads, career guides, other tools used, right, for people who are looking for career options. But there's so many tools available on the net. You can just go and hit it. I think today we are on the point where there is so much to do and you get confused. Should I do this? So many opportunities. So definitely, yes, world is changing, right? I think people often speak about AI and what will happen. Are we going to lose jobs? Sorry, we are not. Maybe just 6% of the today's jobs might diminish, but whole lot of different opportunities are going to come. The need is to learn different skills. That is the challenge. If we learn those skills, we will be there. That's what I will leave it at. Thank you.
Thank you, Deepak. Concluded very nicely. Learn different skills. Tita, over to you, please.
Okay. Again, in the paucity of time, I just wanted to highlight a couple of possible solutions. We all are aware of this Google Play Store, Apple iOS Play Store. Why doesn't Indian government or other governments create something like an SME Play Store, MSME Play Store, wherein we allow with a lot of subsidy for whoever is building this, make it available so that the SMEs, NGOs, and MSMEs simply go there, drag, drop, get their basic infrastructure ready, and focus on the good work that they are expected to do. So that's one proposal that I have. The second one is, we all know doctors in India, they have to mandatorily serve at some part of their MBBS degree, doctorate degree in rural areas. Why don't we come up with some sort of a solution where technologists, have a 6 months placement with an NGO or again an SME or an MSME, help them. Imagine what sort of a vibration it would give. It will in fact imbibe the entrepreneurship spirit in all these youngsters who are working with these NGOs and SMEs. And we're not talking about a 5 trillion economy here. When all of this happens, we can definitely shoot for 15 trillion. And one thing I wanted to, before I close, just wanted to mention this, and I'm borrowing what Speaker Vibhuti Jaji and also Speaker Hadija mentioned. Simple things are so hard to do. We don't need to really look at huge digital skilling and all of that. And there is this wonderful NGO based out of Mumbai, Apne Aap Women's Collective NGO. And some of the volunteers there, and basically they serve for, the girls in the red light, Kamatipura, Mumbai area, largely the girl childs from women who are unfortunately pushed into prostitution. For 8 years, volunteers over the weekend have been spending time with these girls and imparting a lot of minimal skills. It could be around chartered accountancy. How do you do a simple balance sheet, analysis? How do you work with Excel? And I'm happy to mention that 550 girls who have not, thank God, not gone into that old, unwanted profession, they've all come into mainstream. Some of them are today performing as star chefs. Some of them are computer analysts. So this is an example of how simple things, skill building could really help us achieve larger goal. And I wanted to end, I know I'm taking a lot of time here. I want to quote Dr. Abdul Kalam, our people president, the late people president. All of us do not have equal talent. I'm sure we understand that, but all of us have an equal opportunity to develop our talents. So let's not leave any tears in heaven. Being a pop music fan, let's heal the world we live in and save it for our children. Over to you, Arvindji.
Thank you, Sita. Such a powerful concluding thoughts from you. Karan, I will take 2 or 3 minutes just to share my perspectives. What is inevitable is automation. digital will continue to grow. And what is the biggest risk or a potential is the convergence of technology. Now we are talking about convergence of IT and BT, convergence of information technology and operations technology, and that is leading to fourth industrial revolution. Now, as some of the speakers said, that the future skills are not known. We don't know what kind of a skills that our existing talent needs to imbibe. So one key for this is continuous learning or learning to learn. If we can crack that model of learning to learn and continuous learning, then we continue to be relevant as human beings. Otherwise, I think there will be, as Professor Yuval Harari says, there will be class of useless people because they continue to remain where they are and continue to do a routine job. What is the key for success in the future? It has to be multidisciplinary. I cannot say that I'm an IT professional and say that I will not learn manufacturing, because it is about learning many different aspects so that the value creation happens. So if I take, say, for example, India, our strength is in IT. Now, if the same IT talent can start learning about operations technologies, understanding how manufacturing happens, believe me, there will be a powerful talent that will emerge from India for the world. So that's something which is important. Now, fundamentally, what kind of a skills that we need to really look at? I have three things to say. Number one, since we need to continuously learn and learn to learn, and machines are going to be intelligent, we need to be more human. So first is we need to learn and start learning human skills. Without human skills, believe me, whether it is sustainability problem or AI problem, we are not going to solve that. So first thing is, whatever, I will not go into what are those human skills, but first thing is human skill. Inner. So if we learn the inner skills or human skills, believe me, that will keep us relevant in the future. The second, which is most important, is creativity, innovation, and entrepreneurialness. I think some of you alluded to that. Without being creative, without being innovative, without being entrepreneurial, believe me, we will not be able to add value to whatever we are doing. So I was with the chairman of a company and asked him, it is $80 billion company. I said, what is that one skill that you want to have in your team, in your talent? He says, entrepreneurialness. I think, and being entrepreneurial, you need to be creative, you need to be innovative, and you need to be human. The third, which is very important, is technology is an enabler. I think all of us, we discussed about technological solution, digital solutions. I may not be an expert in data AI, but I need to know about what technology and where technology can be applied. Technology knowledge is going to be very, very powerful. And those who are technologists, they need to start learning at one end the human skills, and other end it is innovation and creativity. The last point in the Indian context I would like to say and conclude is that look at four industrial revolution. First industrial revolution, we were just defeated in a Plazi. So we were under East India Company. Second industrial revolution, we were under Britishers. Only in third industrial revolution, where we took the pie of the third industrial revolution, that is IT, and therefore we see some kind of a development. So we lost two industrial revolution, where the countries which were not economically as good as India, they became superpowers. But I believe strongly that India has the tremendous opportunity for us to lead in the fourth industrial revolution. And of course, there are many ways we can do entrepreneurship and many other things. But I'm also hopeful that we define the fifth industrial revolution. We will not, adopt to, something that has already been created in another part of the world. And that's the potential that we have. And for this, if our companies look at the potential opportunities like digital twin, how can we become leaders in digital twin? How can we become leaders in cognitive system? Because that's the brain power that we have on the IT side. I think if we can do this, believe me, as Sita, you said, what is $5 trillion? We can go to $15 trillion or $10 trillion very, very soon. So I will stop here. I know, we have only 5 minutes. Kiran, I think, and Vibhuti ji, over to you, please.
Thank you very much, Arvind. Can you imagine what is my situation in all of this? How much I want to speak over here, and I cannot. But of course, I know we will have a lot of conversations post this, post the summit, and I of course look forward to talking to every one of you, because we would definitely want to collaborate. And I'll just say in one line, we have our 3 verticals. One which is in communication and advocacy. The second is in stakeholder engagement and capacity building, and then the last, of course, is in monitoring and evaluation and strategy and design. So with that, I will stop my plug. Not go beyond that. And I know, Vibhuti, I am sorry. I'm saying this publicly, right? But I'm going to get you very quickly 2 more minutes and then I'm done, right? I just want to say, we talk about the entire summit is focused on the SDGs, and that is, I'm sorry. I also want to say one thing. We're going to have a group photograph, so nobody going anywhere. Yeah, we have Vibhuti, and I know he's the star pa, but you also star pa, so we need your photographs. So stay around for another 5 minutes or so. Okay. So very quickly, put up the slide on the SDGs, and everybody looks at the SDGs like this, right? 17 silos, and everybody focuses on it. And great, you need focus, you need laser focus. But along with laser focus, we need integration, yeah. And therefore, we look at it as a ball of 17 different colors, a woolen ball of 17 different colors that are very tightly interlinked, tightly integrated, tightly intersectional, whatever word you want to use. But that is really how we look at it, and that's how we'd like everybody else to look at it, because this is what multi-sectoral, multidisciplinary, multi-stakeholder designing and planning and execution should be about. So just want to put that out over there. We are trending thanks to all of you, so please use the hash code if you want to share any comments, feedback. But if you have a complaint, please come to me, don't go out. Yeah, a little bit about ourselves. If you want to know more, please, all our handles, our websites, etc. is there. And let me tell you, the story is still not over, because a lot is still going on. So would encourage you to please explore and check out what is happening in the portal, and of course meet people from all around the world. Please don't forget to be back with us at the closing plenary. Vibhuti, I know you're not going to do this, but for the others, yeah, we have Philip Kotler, the father modern guru of marketing, and I'm a big fan over there, and he's going to be joining us at the closing plenary along with many other great, distinguished people. So I would really encourage you. We have the Glenmark Nutrition Awards first, and then we have the Rise Awards after that. So do join us for the closing plenary, and of course, look forward to this conversation going on. Vibhuti, over to you. Thank you so very much.
This has been one fascinating 2 hours of 1 a.m. to 3 a.m. getting to there. I really enjoyed myself, and thank you all for being here, and thank you organizers for having me here. So that was great. A couple of thoughts, we have done so much work in the last as many years where we perform turnaround strategies for companies. And so as a result of which we had to learn the processes in each of the companies. We have grown companies that were small, made them big. And of course, I'm not supposed to tell their names, but there's a company that started off with 20 people, technology company, adopted our practices, and they are huge company now. There is a company that worked grew inorganically by acquiring very specialized technology from Mitsubishi, Japan to Colombia, Bogota. They wanted us to establish a workplace culture of that company. We dealt with people from Dubai, Middle East, India, everywhere else, Paris, Colombia, and we established a workplace culture for them. One of the most fascinating experience was that when people from Middle East, India, and Indonesia and other places said that in our culture, we don't know how to say no. It is not good, it's not polite to say no. And my partner, Chris, told me, Vibhuti, you got to handle this. These are all your folks. But I believe in the concept of yes and no. And I said, if you do not know how to say no, your yes has no meaning. This is a very insidious cultural thing that happens to all of us. If we do not know how to say no, my yes has no meaning. If I do not respect individual differences, the talk of equality is rubbish, because we are all different. We are all different talents. What Shabda can do, I can't. What I can do, you can't. So we are all different. We have to respect individual differences. Then only we will talk about equality. Yes, we are all born equal. After that, as we grow, we become different. But a couple of points which I want to talk about. Deepakji put out the job opportunities that are available, right? Around the world, opportunities are rising everywhere. I always say this, every disaster brings about a new set of opportunities. I remember 1973, 74 in Patna had a huge flood. I was in Pune studying in Gokhale Institute at that time. And the flood was so bad that for 7 days, there was no communication at all. Kirloskar pumps had their pumps sitting in their garage or warehouse. They had a bad year. They were not selling. Bihar government bought all the Kirloskar pumps, flushed out the water. Guess what? The balance sheet looked good, and Bihar government got out of the, Patna got out of the flood problem. So the issue is here is that opportunity, when it arises, how do you grab it? We all can't be everything to everybody at the same time. Somebody cannot be a banker. He leaves the job and goes and does something else. I did not like government. I didn't want to be in the government, but I love banking. I'm in a banking part. Even in banking, I'm a good private banker and a corporate banker. I'm not an FX trader, right? I'm not a balance sheet maker. Likewise, in every occupation, Deepakji, this is very important to bear in mind. In our work, what we found is that fitment of people is key. Who can do that job? Roger Federer and Rafa Nadal would be lousy badminton players, same racket, one different racket, but they can be lousy badminton players. Likewise, Kobe Bryant, my favorite, and Michael Jordan would be terrible baseball players. Michael Jordan is an example of that. Cristiano Ronaldo, think about him playing basketball. You will have totally misfit people. And that's what is important to do. And I'll share my personal thing. I have indulged in my life on a 7-year itch in my work life. I've always dabbled with the thought process. Who am I? What am I doing? And what next? That has allowed me to remain current. It has allowed me to interact with people because I'm not given up and old and done. Age is a number. It is a number. But with age also, things change. You can't do what you did 20 years ago as well today. And that's what is important for the skill part of it. To staying relevant, you have to acquire skills as you go along. That's very important. And in this modern era, let me give you an example of American Express where I worked. We knew big data. That's the only element of technology I understand. Because in American Express, the moment you swiped my card, I knew where you were shopping. I knew what your income was. I knew what size clothing you are buying. I knew what your taste and preferences are. We use that data then without having the availability of the modern day data analytics. But we knew the data. I worked with Reserve Bank of India. The RBI report used to be published 3 years later after the date. But not now. So technology is a big enabler. Somebody mentioned that. But I want to emphasize on one thing. The world is now changed in certain directional way. I think Shabd talked about population part of it, right? Did you, Shabd? Somebody mentioned about a population explosion.
Yes, sir, I did.
Yes, yes. So this is very important. I was on an Economist magazine panel on human potential with the famous Linda Jackson, who is Linda Grattan, who is the famous theoretician for a particular concept. And we were talking about population explosion. And I said, when I see the picture of Mumbai 1950 or 1960, it looks so nice. So today, the climate change which is happening to us is a question. Is it linked with the explosion explosion in population that is happening, which is consuming Earth's infinite resources, so to say? What if the Earth's population had not grown to the extent that it has? Would we be better off? It's a food for thought. As some, it is a very important food for thought. Something needs to be done to protect the Earth. It is unfair of America and the Western Europe to tell India, stop your economic development because you are consuming carbon. You have no right to develop. That's ridiculous. I don't believe in that. We have so many things happening. Technology is an enabler. Let's use it. But let's all remember one thing. I was sharing with Karen my theory of 3CM, which I talked about in my TV program as well. We have come to a world now, thanks to technology, we are all interconnected. The world is really small. Cities may still be large, but the world is small. And the 3CM I talk about is collaborate, cooperate, and coordinate, and then mobilize. If you do not do this, then we remain in an isolated cocoon of our own. There is absolutely no option to that. People have to cut across their all barriers of religion, culture, country, and they have to come to solve the domestic problem, which is no longer domestic. That's the point which I want to drive at. This is a subject matter. We have done so much work that I'm finding it difficult. That's why I'm away, because this is my topic. This is subject matter. We have worked with companies which were small, made them big. Big companies were run into big trouble. We fixed the problem because we were committed to doing that. And we call in our Human Potential Project, we call it commitment-based management. We have decried certain principles. There is no time management. That's rubbish. 24/7, 365 is common to everybody. It's how we manage our energy, how we manage our commitment. That gives us time. That's what is important. And think about it. You must do a job or an occupation which you naturally excel at, something that comes naturally to you, right? If I can't be a data analytics, I'm a lousy accountant. If you tell me to make a balance sheet, nothing doing. It's not happening. I can guarantee you that. I'll be sitting on it for 20 hours and I still will not be able to do that. But give me a balance sheet and I'll trash it in a matter of no time. Different, same book, different way of looking at it. So there are people, it is very important for fitment and suitability. This is the time, I shared this with my son, that I belong to an era in India where we had no choices. We wrote an all India competitive exam, whether you got here, wherever your luck opened up, my luck opened up with the Reserve Bank of India. But you guys, a modern generation, has so much of choice available to you. And that's the challenge. Because now you have to find what you are really good at. If you are good at something, you excel in it. If you're not good at something, you become an indentured labor. Indentured labor means you have salary mil rahi hai, paise aa rahe hain. Sorry, some people don't understand Hindi. I'm getting my salary, I'm paying my mortgage, I have a wife to take care of, I have my spouse to take care of, I have children, I can't leave the job now. But I always say this to people, you will always get a job, whether it is flipping a burger in McDonald's or working for Apple or Google. You have a choice to find a life. When you find a life, then you don't have to work ever in your life again. Salim Ali, I use that example. Salim Ali was an ornithologist. And I'm sure all of you know what ornithologist means. He was a bird watcher, professional bird watcher. Imagine if I told my father, I want to be a bird watcher, everybody would laugh. Or during our time, Raghu Rai was a famous photographer. Today with digital camera, everybody is a photographer. So there is a thing called commoditization of technology. And we must not get caught into that. Every technology that is available today becomes redundant 3 months now. In 3 months, a new model comes out, and probably at half the price. So technology is not a enabler anymore. It is just a user thing that you use to take next step. What matters is the speed with which you execute the strategy. Strategy is common. Everybody knows everything these days. Technology is the same. We are all using the same technology. The differentiating factor is the speed with which you take a decision to take the next action. I will end here. This is a glorious topic. Very happy to be part of this. Thank you for having me. And if anybody needs to speak with me, we have worked globally. So, somebody told me in India, actually, 6 years ago when I was in India, somebody said, "You don't know anything about Indian companies." I said, "I'm a goddamn Indian. What do you mean I don't know about Indian companies? I know India very well, more than you think you know." Because I have addressed questions about India to American audiences, which have ranged from sublime to stupid. So the point which I'm trying to make, there are certain universal principles that apply globally. There is no difference. Whether it's Malaysia, United States, Egypt, India, Saudi Arabia, or Colombia, Bogota. Doesn't matter. There are certain universal principles that operate all the time. And wow. I will end with this. Thank you very much. It was marvelous to hear all of you. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Just one thing. I just wanted to say, those people who are in business, we have a very glorious chart. We call it the new game of business. The new game of business. Sustainability is key. And I'm going to reach out to those 50 unicorns that I found in India. And I'm through them. How do you sustain? How do you take the next stage? How do you go to the next stage? How do you take the next step? That's what is important. Thank you.
Share that with us in the chat box for sure, Vibhuti. I'm sure we'll all be very interested to know about it. Imagine this at 2 a.m. in the morning, okay? And I'm not going to say what you started with, Vibhuti, that what else you use to stay up. Yeah.
It's not 2, it's 3.
Yes, I'm sorry, 3 a.m. in the morning. Oh my goodness me. Thank you. I cannot thank you enough. And I'm sure all of us here join me in saying that big thank you to you for this closing address and to be with us right through this whole session.